there was some criticism like, the Indians are not really good in excavation. Maybe there is maybe contamination in the samples. The samples are contaminated. But here I would like to draw your attention that when the site of Mehergarh was excavated and they found very early dates, nobody raised any doubt about that. So here
Right.
I don't know why, because it was done by the Indian scholars. I don't know, why, what was the motive behind that. But the Indian scholars did not take that, in bad taste. Rather, we took that as a challenge.
Namaste and welcome to Indian History and Archaeology. I'm your host, Dr. Lajwanti Shani, and our guest today requires no introduction at all, really, Dr. Vasant Shinde. But all I can say here is he was my guru, my PhD supervisor at Deccan College. We're going to start with asking you about the Harappan Civilization, Harappan studies, and what is happening at present in this field.
So, see, I think a lot of in past 10 years, a lot of new research has happened in the Harappan area, and a lot of Indian scholars have generated new data. Now, the work that we started in the Ghaggar Basin, which is identified as the Saraswati Basin. Now, there, I started the work in 2006. And before this particular research that I began, the site of Bhirana was excavated in the same area, in the Saraswati area only. And that particular site had produced very early dates for the beginning of the Harappan culture. When we
Right.
say beginning of Harappan culture, that means we take it back to the early Harappan phase. And that is in the Sindh region, maybe the date was around 4000 BCE. So we take that as the beginning of the Harappan culture. But at Bhirana, the dates were quite early, 6000 BCE.
Mhm.
So, and of course, for the early phase, a lot of scholars say that this is a pre-Harappan phase. But that is
Yes.
not, in fact. Actually, that is a proper Harappan phase because the same material culture has continued from 6000 BCE to almost 1500 BCE.
Wonderful.
So that means, if you use a term pre-Harappan, that will be wrong because that means there is no connection between the phase that we talk and the Harappan culture.
Right.
So that was the major happening as far as the Harappan research is concerned. That happened in the beginning of the 20th century, 21st century, and there were a lot of criticism. Even Indian scholars were not ready to accept the dates, early dates, and also there was some criticism like the Indians are not really good in excavation. Maybe there is maybe contamination in the samples. The samples are contaminated. But here I would like to draw your attention that when the site of Mehergarh was excavated and they found very early dates, nobody raised any doubt about that. So here
Right.
I don't know why, because it was done by the Indian scholars. I don't know, why, what was the motive behind that. But the Indian scholars did not take that, in bad taste. Rather, we took that as a challenge. And one criticism was that because there is a date only from one side, how we can generalize that. So then, we took a challenge. The number of sites were excavated in that region. From 2006 onward, I started working in that region. I excavated 4 sites. One is Farmana, then Girawat, Mitathal, and finally Rakigadi. These are the 4 sites which I excavated. And one of the objectives of my research there in that region, in the Saraswati region, was to understand the beginning of the Harappan culture and whether the date found at Virana was it a flux, or
Mhm.
there is a there's a truth in that. So
Right.
now we have are almost over the period of 10-15 years, we have more than 2 dozen dates now available, and all the dates point to the beginning of the Harappan culture to around 6000 BCE, between
I see.
6000 and 5500 BC now.
Mhm.
So that is one very major discovery, I would say, because before that, most of the scholars believe that the origin of the Harappan culture took somewhere maybe in the Sindh region. And from
Right.
there, people began to move to different parts.
Mhm.
But that is not the case, in fact. I don't claim that, that origin has taken place in Saraswati and then they have moved to the Indus River basin. I don't claim that way because
Mhm.
there may be sites, early sites in that region also, in Sindh region also, which have not been excavated or which have not been discovered yet. Like Birana
Correct.
was not, till 2000, 1999,
We've
2000,
lost your
the
voice, sir.
site was not known. After that, only after the site was excavated, only, we found, that particular evidence. So similarly, there could be sites in that region also, which could be as old as Birana or Farmana or Rakhigali. And
Yes,
it
because
is quite
in
likely.
right. No, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but in the Sindh area, Sindh Balochistan area, we've only got Mehergarh. There's no other date giving the
No,
earliest
no.
dates from there.
See, there is
No
only
early
one
other
site.
site. Right.
See, there is only one site now.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, that maybe Kilegul Muhammad, that needs to be excavated on large scale. I don't know what is the status now, but there
Okay.
are quite early sites in that region. That is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, now the time has come to review the dates of or the cultural sequence at Mehergarh itself.
Mm-hmm.
What they called pre-Harappan there could be early Harappan. So, in the light of new evidence from the Saraswati Basin, the stratigraphy, the chronology, and the cultural sequence at Mehergarh needs to be needs to be properly reviewed now.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a challenge now. So unless we do that, we simply cannot say that now that we should compare everything with Mehergarh. Not
Right.
necessary now. So that is one thing that is very important.
Absolutely.
And then we always compare Harappans with the contemporary cultures like or civilizations like Mesopotamians, Egyptians. They also had contact with the Persian Gulf, with the Gulf
Mm-hmm.
region also, Oman, Bahrain. And initially, we know that the contact was for trade purpose. The Harappans basically developed this particular contact. But
Yeah.
then we always compare because the three civilizations, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and the Harappan, these three
Mm-hmm.
civilizations are always compared with each other. And when general people, when they see the evidence of maybe pyramid in Egypt or ziggurats in maybe in Mesopotamia or big temples, life-size images in that region, the
Yeah.
impression that people get, most of the people, is that perhaps those cultures were or civilizations were very advanced, and the
Mm-hmm.
Harappans were not advanced as much as these people were. That is the impression that is carried by the
Right.
most of the people. But I think we should also make it clear that Harappans were considered to be the best civil engineers. If they had decided to create this type of this type of monumental architecture, they could have easily done that. It was not difficult for the
Absolutely.
Harappans to do that. But here now we have to understand why the Harappans have not done that. Okay, so there are two reasons. According to me, there are two reasons. One is that administrative system or political situation was different in Mesopotamia and Egypt and in the Harappan region. In the Harappan region, we don't see as such till today the presence of the monarchical system. We have not found palaces anywhere so far. We have not discovered, tombs, royal tombs, or the tombs of the king or the queen. So they're there in Mesopotamia, they're there in Egypt. And because they had a different system, maybe Harappans had maybe different, maybe I consider the Harappans had some kind of democratic system. Maybe some group of people were responsible for running the cities and the Harappan region. That is a whatever circumstantial evidence we have, it points towards that. Okay. So whatever happened, in Mesopotamia and Egypt, that happened because on the instruction and insistence of the royal family. So everything revolved around the royal families only.
Correct.
So these pyramids were created for the royal families. Huge wealth was buried in the royal, tombs along with these, royal families.
Right.
And the temple complexes and big those images that they created, they were only for the these kings and queens only. Okay, but Harappans had different system, as I say, that maybe probably democratic system. And so that is because of this difference in system. Perhaps they were not able to, the Harappans could maintain different, altogether different philosophy. And here the philosophy of the Harappans is very important. We never considered that as important, aspect. But now we know that after studying the material culture that we have, we can certainly talk about the Harappan philosophy.
Right.
You know, the Harappans, whatever they did, maybe construction or generation of wealth, they did it for the common people. They, you have studied the, trade aspect, and you know that, the Harappans were literally, they were plundering the West. They were sending so, a lot of goods there, and return they were importing, very small things. That means the trade was beneficial to the Harappans. So through the trade, they started developing huge amount of wealth that was coming from the West. And initially, of course, the trade was confined, maybe the hinterland area. But then they realized, that through the hinterland, trade, perhaps they were not able to, amass enough wealth. So they realized that, perhaps they should develop contact with outside world. And they were the first to develop maybe maritime contact for the trade purpose.
Yeah.
They also created the infrastructure for that purpose, the dockyard at Lothal, and they developed a lot of ports on the coast, Makran coast, Saurashtra coast also. So they created the facility, and then they started trade, and they really, acquired so much wealth. So that wealth was not used by these people for creating those monumental architecture, which is of no use to the common people. They
Right.
invested all that for creating those beautiful, well-planned, very hygienic cities for the common people. And they did not believe in burying a lot of wealth. There is, small wealth buried along with the dead bodies, because perhaps they realize that once it is buried, that wealth is gone forever. That cannot be used for any developmental purpose.
Right.
So that was the philosophy, mentality that was developed, by the Harappans. And that philosophy needs to be, showcased properly to the world. So that is, we have done enough work on the, Harappan history. We know the history of the Harappans. But these aspects are very important. So that
Absolutely.
is one aspect that we need to convey to the world. We need to write. We should convey to the world that this is the philosophy of the Harappans. Then the other thing that we should talk is the knowledge system that the Harappans developed.
Hmm.
The knowledge system that the Harappans developed is so relevant. See, the beginning of the knowledge system goes back to the beginning of the agriculture, maybe 7,000 BC. At Mehergarh, we find the evidence of the incipient technology being introduced for the production of various goods. And then gradually what we can see in the material culture also, there's a growth in the technology, there's advancement in the technology, and they perfected the technology almost in the middle of the third millennium BC, in the beginning of the what we call as the mature open phase.
Right.
And then if you see the same technology which was developed by the Harappans maybe around 5,000 years ago, the same continues even today.
Exactly.
And if you don't talk about the relevance of this technology, perhaps the importance of the Harappan knowledge will not be properly conveyed.
Right.
So in South Asia, there are a lot of communities in South Asia who are still dependent on the Indian knowledge system.
Mhm.
There are potters even today.
Yes.
There are there are there is a family in Khambat region who makes stone beads,
Correct.
exactly same as the Harappans made, and they are using the same technology as the Harappans did.
Hmm.
So what is important here that we should certainly talk about the relevance of the technology that the Harappans developed, and how it was useful for the community. And for 5,000 years, there is no change. So then we can certainly we can say that how important this system was, knowledge
Correct.
system was. So that is also very important that we should talk about this. And one example that how there is the knowledge that was developed by the Harappans, how it is relevant and how we can learn from that. The site of Dholavira, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So Dholavira is a classical example. Uh, that site was developed in the desert part.
Right.
Even during the Harappan time, the climate was not much different from what is today. Okay, maybe sea level was slightly higher during the mature Harappan phase,
Mhm. Yes.
and maybe the water was close to the settlement. Dholavira could also have been used as a port
Mm.
that time. Okay. Now the Harappans knew that there is a dearth of water, and but at the same time they wanted to develop this particular city because it is on a very important trade link between Saurashtra and Sindh.
Correct.
Saurashtra has natural resources or access to the natural resources required by the Harappans.
Mhm.
And maybe in Sindh region, like big cities like Mohenjo-daro, for example, Channu-daro, there they had the facility for the manufacturing purpose. So they had to develop this particular, they had to use this particular trade route, and people were traveling on this trade route. So they wanted to create maybe, settlements at regular intervals with proper security, very strong fortification
Mhm.
walls. And so they
Right.
created, they built, number of, maybe big cities and small cities. Smaller, like, Juniper, for example, which was excavated by Archaeological Survey of India. Then recently
Smaller
Kanmer
like
site, Junikuran,
which was the smaller one you mentioned?
Junikuran.
Okay, right.
So that was excavated by the Archaeological Survey of India.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there is another site called Kanmer, which was excavated, by the Rajasthan Vidyapit and the
Okay.
Gujarat state government. So that is also on the trade route. And even though Surkotala very well. So small settlement,
Yes. Right.
but highly fortified. So all the settlements that I'm talking today, like
Hmm.
Dholavira, Surkotala, Junikuran, Kanmer,
Mhm.
these are all strongly fortified cities, and they're in a line on the trade route. And among them, they develop one, big city like Dholavira. But when you study the site of Dholavira, then you realize that one can learn a lot about the planning of the city. The
Yes.
Harappans simply did not go there and started living. That was not the case. They studied the geography, geology of the region properly, and then they decided to establish this particular city between two small rivers. One is called Manhar, the other one is
Yeah.
Mansar. And what they did, because there was a dearth of water, but by using this innovative technology, innovative water harvesting and water management system, they created the running water in the desert area inside the city. What they did, they put series of dams on both the rivers, Manhar and Mansar. Check dams, series of them. Even today, you can see the traces of these check dams there. Because after
Right.
the Harappans deserted that city, nobody occupied after that. So a lot of
Correct.
things are intact there. A lot of things are intact even today. So you can see those, the traces of the dams the Harappans built there. And then, that there is occasional rainfall in the desert part. But whenever there's a rainfall, these rivers get flash floods, sudden floods.
Yeah.
So Harappans, they diverted the entire through the system of check dam. They diverted entire water inside the settlement, and they did not allow probably drop of water to escape from the river. They put
Oh wow.
these check dams,
Mhm.
and the Archaeological Survey of India, which excavated the site, they have discovered number of, or they have excavated number of underground water reservoirs. Large number.
Underground.
Yeah, underground. There are some big ones, there are small ones, medium-sized ones. So that there is an evidence for that.
It's
Very,
amazing.
so amazing. And in the contemporary world, this was a really, something innovative. And then, what they did, they also connected these different tanks by underground channel system.
Okay, so
So
those
that,
tanks were also connected.
they're connected. So that, the tanks can be filled one after the other when there is water.
Right.
Not only that, before, the water enters the city, they created storm water drainage system first. In case, there is,
Yes.
huge volume of water comes in that might damage the city.
Right.
So they had developed this systematic and very scientific. Even today, anybody now wants to develop city and you want to have this water harvesting system
Mm-hmm.
or collection system. First thing that the modern architect will consider is the construction of the stormwater drainage system.
Right.
So that was developed by the
We need
Harappans.
to learn from that. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is something the planners should learn from the Harappans.
absolutely.
And then the water which was stored in the city underground, maybe water reservoirs. There are some big wells also they have excavated. So the water there is, they have made sure that there's a running water available in the city, in the desert part. They created that facility.
Right.
And not only that, the water they stored was used for domestic use as well as for the irrigation purpose also. They use, the stored water for, for growing wheat and barley in that region, in the desert part.
Mm-hmm.
So that, so that shows, the innovative approach the Harappans had adopted.
I'd say they were masters at it already at that
They were
stage.
masters. And even today, I think, we are not following that pattern even today.
Absolutely.
And that they had done 5,000 years ago. So, the water, these tanks had, the depth of the tank was limited,
Mhm.
but they also dug one big wells, quite deep wells. So in case the water from the tank is over, from the reservoirs, suppose the water is exhausted, still there's a water in the deep wells. So they could take out the water from the wells and put in the channels so that, the water can travel to different tanks. Again, the
Okay.
water will be available to the people. So
Wow.
that facility was created by the Harappans there. So, and the technology that was used by the Harappans was very, very simple, but very, very effective and practical. Okay. Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody could, think about, this type of innovative approaches in the
Right.
contemporary world, certainly. And interestingly, we don't have in Mesopotamia and Egypt, they have used slavery for the construction purpose.
Correct.
Because Mesopotamians are known for the very aggressive attitude.
Yes.
So they used to raid the surrounding countries, neighboring countries, and the defeated people were used as slaves, and
Mhm.
they were employed in creating those monumental architecture. Same with the Egyptians.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even Egyptians and the Mesopotamians they had maintained standing army also. There is evidence for that. But
Yes.
we don't find that kind of approach at all. Harappans were certainly peace-loving people because we do not find any evidence of any kind of aggression. We
Mhm.
don't find maybe very offensive or even defensive implements also.
Mhm. The
They
weapons.
they develop this health sciences like the meditation.
Okay.
Then, yeah, even we have found the human terracotta figurines in different yogic posture.
Right. Right.
Yoga tradition was developed by them. So
Mhm.
non-violence and this type of approach was adopted by the Indians right from the early times.
Mhm.
What is interesting that how we can learn from this particular Harappan system that they develop at Dholavira. Today, there is a between Rappar is the nearest town to Dholavira,
Down. Yeah.
which is 100 and 100 maybe 10 kilometers. So between Rappar and Dholavira, today there are hardly 4 or 5 small villages.
Okay. Yeah.
And people are not establishing big settlements here because of dearth of water.
Right.
And whatever creation, see, I always say that the Harappans did create some monumental architecture, but they were mostly utility monumental architecture, like fortification is required. That is for the
Correct.
community.
Right.
Then you need water, this water tanks, that is for the community.
Absolutely.
And interestingly, these were created by the people for the people.
Mhm.
As we do not find any slavery or any kind of maybe monarchical system there.
Mhm.
So that shows that maybe, and that system has continued. The panchayat system that we have today, which is very effective. My
Yes.
view is that that continues from the Harappan times. We are inheriting that from the Harappan times, possibly.
Mhm.
So if today the government adopts the Harappan technology and they spread the knowledge about the Harappan technology. See,
Mhm.
the technology that the Harappans use is very simple. You don't need foreign collaboration for that.
Right.
You don't
Absolutely
need,
correct.
you don't need a lot of funding for that.
Mhm.
If water harvesting, this check dam system is adopted today in the desert
Mm.
part, which is our own technology. The
Right.
entire desert can be converted into Greenland.
Absolutely.
And today, you know, there's a lesson from the Harappans. Today, the whole world is severely, facing the water scarcity. And it is said that maybe the third world war, may be on water. So this is something, that this we should be proud of,
Mhm.
and we can learn from from our ancient cultures. So it is not simply that we should only talk about the Harappan, maybe town planning or lifestyle.
Yeah.
So people will ask, so what? Okay, they were quite advanced, in town planning. So what? So, but our attitude should be that yes, we can learn from the Harappans.
True.
And a lot of technology, a lot of knowledge that was developed by the Harappans can be put to use your today. That is how archaeology is useful today. And
Yes.
archaeology can play very important role in nation building. This is
Absolutely
how
right.
we can do that, yes. And this is one of the
Even
examples, right?
pyrotechnology, even the pyrotechnology that they had.
Yeah, pyrotechnology. Then the textile technology that they develop.
Yes.
We have the evidence of cotton textile. We
Mm.
have evidence of jute textile, silk textile, and even wool
Mhm.
also.
Yes.
And they develop this technology, right? Weaving technology. We are carrying forward that.
Mm.
The apart from the metal technology, even the clay technology, the making uh, clay toys,
Mm.
then pottery, and your storage facility, that was
Right.
unique. And
Absolutely.
the technology that they use is so advanced. Even today, of course, a lot of communities are continuing the same technology, but still, they are far behind the Harappans. So we, as archaeologists, now we are reconstructing the Harappan technology
Mm.
by using science, various sciences. So that knowledge, we can supply to the people who are following the traditional knowledge system. So that they can make their product much better,
Right.
and that product will have much better value. The person who makes stone beads by using Harappan technology in
Yes.
Khambat region, now
Yes.
he is making the roaring business all over the world. We can revive this, some of the crafts can be revived.
Correct.
The Harappan terracotta art was so sophisticated, so advanced. We can revive that
Yes.
also. So there's a time that we should not only talk about the Harappan lifestyle, but also the relevance of studying the Harappan culture, their knowledge system we can talk about,
Mhm.
and the contribution that the Harappans have made to the history of maybe South Asia or the history of the world.
Right.
Certainly, I say that the Harappans were pioneer in town planning. We don't have that
Right.
kind of planning in Mesopotamia or Egypt.
Absolutely right.
The drainage system that they adopted was so unique. Even in the streets of Mohenjo-daro, there were small 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 rooms at regular intervals in the street.
Okay.
So they were used as a garbage pits.
Oh,
So
all
they
right.
were so conscious about this all this aspect cleanliness
Right.
and
Hygiene, cleanliness, absolutely right.
yeah, say hygiene. So the uh, the science, they develop life science particularly, like yoga tradition, meditation.
Yeah,
The whole world is following today. And we
absolutely right.
consider that as the best, India's best gift to the world.
Mm.
That has come from our ancestors only.
Right, absolutely.
And then, there is so much to learn again from the Harappan,
Yeah,
trade mechanism. As I mentioned that
absolutely.
Harappans, they were at disadvantaged position. They did not have sufficient raw materials
Mm.
within their territory required to manufacture various goods. For example, copper was
Right.
located outside the Harappan region, controlled by the Ganesha, Jodhpura, Chalkudik, or the regional cultures. Gold came from South India, from the Hatti mines. That was
Mm.
controlled by the contemporary, what we call as South Indian Neolithic people. So similarly, a lot of semi-precious stones were located outside. So
Mm.
Harappans developed a very cordial relation with these people,
Yeah,
and they acquired the necessary raw materials from them.
even lapis lazuli for that matter.
Like largely, which is in Afghanistan, border of
Yeah,
Afghanistan, Pakistan. So what is important is that how we can learn again from the Harappans. They develop very good
right.
contacts with them. They did not
Yeah,
go there and fought with those people. They said, "Hey,
exactly.
okay, you give this to us, we will give you something else."
Right.
So that barter system was developed by them. So the Harappans had technology with them, but they did not have raw materials. So raw materials acquired from by this Harappans by from these people, and they supplied the same people the finished good that they made and even technology.
Correct.
So
Mhm.
that is how the Harappans started generating wealth.
So this is in fact something that we've been doing all through history in India,
They have
right?
been doing also exactly,
Manufacturing center. Yeah,
exactly. In today, the whole world has realized the importance of trade. There's
correct.
a fight, over the control of the trade.
Yes.
So, see, again, I always give the example of the Harappans when it comes to Japan. Japan was destroyed almost in Second World War, almost destroyed. Nobody thought that Japan will rise again.
Right.
And I've seen, the destruction at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I visited, and I've seen, how much destruction, was brought by this Second World War.
Yeah,
But Japan became a world economic power within the next 15 years. In
correct.
1964, they showcased the economic development that they did within 15 years. And the strategy that the Japanese adopted is exactly same as the Harappans.
Mhm.
Harappans had technology with them, they did not have raw materials. Similarly, the Japan had technology with them, they did not have raw materials.
Yeah,
Japan started importing raw materials from developing countries like India, China, and they started producing because they had technology with them. They started producing finished goods on large scale,
absolutely.
and they supplied that to the same countries from whom they acquired the raw material. This is how the
Okay.
even Harappans did. This is how the Harappans
Right,
did
right.
also. So you know, we can certainly the world is learning from this ancient cultures also.
Very true. History is
Right?
all full of lessons really for us
So
to
this is
learn
also
from.
considered to be one of the important contributions of the Harappan. They have given this this mechanism to
Mm.
us, and we are using that today, directly or indirectly, knowing or unknowingly, we are using that.
Correct.
Then the concept of the toilet and bathrooms. The
Mm.
earliest evidence of that comes from the Harappans. They were the
Exactly.
first to develop that. They were the first in the world to develop, to dig wells within the settlement. They brought clean and hygienic water close to the settlement.
Right.
And we thought that the concept of commode has come from the West. That is not true, in fact. Then the scientific construction method, when we talk about the Harappa's contribution, Certainly, this is one of the top contributions. The scientific construction method used by the Harappans is being used even today all over the world, but in different names. It is called English bond system, but actually, it was not introduced by the English people. It was introduced by the Indians, by the Harappans, much before these English people knew about that.
True.
So this is certainly a contribution. Then the construction of a brick wall. One line of the brick is kept, maybe in header position, the next in stretcher position. So that is the system. Scientific construction method. It has not died down for last 5,000 years.
Absolutely right.
So this is again, very important, contribution of the Harappans. And the drainage system that they developed, such a unique system. They use very simple gradient, method. Water was
Mm-hmm.
flowing from the higher levels to lower levels.
Right.
They had the network of drainage within the cities, settlements. And then, of course, that network was connected to the main drainage line. This is the evidence from the site of Harappa.
Yeah.
And the main drainage line was taken outside the city wall somewhere and emptied somewhere, not within the settlement. Today, we are following the same system, but we have forgotten the principle, basic principles today.
Mumbai,
Mumbai,
Mumbai.
exactly.
They need to learn this.
Now take anyway, even small village also, the whole drainage is spread in the street.
Right.
That,
Absolutely
that
correct.
was yeah, that was not the case during the
Mm.
Harappan times. And because of that, because the Harappans had developed this, health sciences, they developed very clean cities, they maintain hygiene in the cities.
Right.
Because of this, they were so healthy.
Yeah.
I excavated the site of Farmana before Rakhigarhi, and that site is hardly 30 kilometers away from Rakhigarhi. So we excavated large number of burials there. And then we wanted to study the pathology during the Harappan times by using the skeletal remains from this particular site. And with
Okay.
me, there were some Korean scientists also involved. They also collaborated with me. So we studied the skeletal remains. And at the end of the study, the Koreans were so disappointed because they said that we cannot detect a major disease in the Harappan people. And that was because the Harappans had maintained such a healthy lifestyle. The cities were so
Hmm.
clean. That the dustbins at regular intervals. Dust was not sprayed. The dirt was not sprayed in the street.
Right.
So I think if we can convey this message that this is in our blood, so then government does not have to run programs like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, etc.
Absolutely.
Educate the people, educate, make awareness
Yeah.
about this. And people will learn and will realize that yes, this is our tradition.
Yeah. This is something we've forgotten over the past few centuries, actually.
This is what we have forgotten really. So the night now time has come that we should talk more about their contribution, more about their knowledge system, and how the knowledge system is useful today, relevant today. And then people
Yes.
will appreciate our efforts, the efforts of archaeologists.
Correct.
Simply, they will know when I was excavating this small, quite called small site named Karsola, again in Haryana. In 2012,
Okay.
I was excavating that site. And we had one day a special visitor in the form of former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh's daughter,
Okay.
Professor Upinder Singh. She was a professor of history in Delhi University.
I see.
So she came with the students, and being this daughter of Prime Minister, there was some security, some officials,
Yes.
with her. And
Right.
I was showing the remains that we excavated at the site to the students and Professor Upinder Singh. And in the background, people were murmuring, maybe those who accompanied her. They said, why these people have come all the way from Pune and, digging at such a small, village in Haryana. Somebody said that maybe there is a wealth buried here. They want to dig out that wealth.
Oh, yeah. That's the
Then
common
somebody, yeah, that is a
misconception
common,
nowadays.
yeah, conception. Then somebody said that what a waste of national wealth, and they're wasting their own time. What is the use of this subject? And one comment came, very interesting comment. Somebody said that no, these people, maybe these people means we. These people did not get an opportunity to play in the dust when they were children. They are playing now. So that is the understanding. So we have to now make sure that I think two, 3 points are important here before we close.
Mm,
One is that people, the archaeologists now they need to focus on, apart from reconstruct the life of the ancient people, they need to focus on the evidence for the knowledge system, because today the knowledge system is so important. Even in our
mm.
NEP 2020, there's a lot of stress, emphasis on the Indian knowledge
Correct,
system. So we have
correct.
to,
The Indian
study
knowledge
that.
system.
Yeah. So we need to study that. And the Indian knowledge system is very old. I
Mm,
will take it back to almost now to the Harappan, beginning of the Meharical period, beginning of
mm,
agriculture.
right.
Then, then also we should talk more about, the contribution that we have made to the history of science and technology,
Mm,
to the history of culture. We should talk more about that. As you mentioned that,
right.
we made tremendous progress in metallurgy, and
Yes.
we are pioneers in
Shipbuilding.
developing, shipbuilding activities.
Right.
Then, developing some new, metallurgical technologies.
Mm,
Bronze was developed here, steel was developed
yes.
here. So we are pioneers that. We should talk more about that. So
True.
that, the
And we haven't
misconception,
even talked about we haven't even talked about the script. I mean, they knew
we are
they
not
had a
talk
script,
about
they
this.
were
Yes,
writing.
yes.
We haven't
Yeah,
deciphered it, that's our fault.
exactly, exactly. And so that is very important that, we should talk about this. And next stage of that, we should also talk, as I given you example of the levels of the ancient technology
Mm,
or ancient knowledge. I gave the
right.
example of Dolavira and the water collection, water harvesting, water management system that they had developed. So we should talk more about that because that is our
Absolutely.
contribution. So, and then, talk about the relevance of the study also, what we do.
Yes.
And finally, I will also mention that, we should also see to it that the sites are protected. There are two aspects. One is, protection of the site.
Mm,
When I started the work at in the Saraswati region, I wanted to visit those sites, which were discovered by Katie Frenchman.
yes.
In 1964, she did her PhD there, and she had discovered nearly more than 400 sites in that part in the
Correct.
Saraswati Basin. And of course, all the sites are mentioned in her thesis. So I wanted to visit because, that time, sometimes the details were not available, coordinates were not right, not much information was given. So I wanted to visit those sites and, maybe correct, or gather some more
Mm,
information.
correct.
But to my surprise, most of the sites were destroyed. Only maybe, a couple of dozen sites were left out of
Mm,
400 plus sites. And that is happening because we are not really making awareness about the importance of the, study of the culture, study of, ancient cultures.
right.
So that, and people will understand the importance only when we give some examples, like, the, the contribution that we have made, the relevance of, how that knowledge is still even, useful even today.
Yes.
So we have to, make efforts in that direction. So that is not happening much. So because of that, a lot of sites are being destroyed. And then also we should talk about more about or do more reconstruction of the technology, the
Mm-hmm.
past technologies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Since we have done research in Harappan, we can say that no, we maybe begin with the Harappan and then study the technology throughout the different cultural phases and how it
Mm.
has survived
Exactly.
and how the importance of the oral tradition that we have, the knowledge was passed on from generation to generation for ages.
Right.
Before the world's first universities were developed in India, Taxila was the first university to be developed, maybe in 5th century
Correct.
BCE.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, around 5th century CE, the University of Nalanda was developed.
Mm-hmm.
So it is here that they taught the Indian knowledge system, and students and scholars used to come from different parts of the world to study
Right.
the Indian knowledge system.
Right.
So we need to create that kind of atmosphere now, because we
Mm-hmm.
know that we were quite rich, but only telling the world that we were rich and we were quite advanced in the past, that is not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
We have to tell that
Right.
that knowledge is survived, and we can certainly show the world in fact the path.
Correct. The kind of technology that we
The
had
kind
at that
exactly
point. If we
exactly
can demonstrate it, that's much, much
that
better.
is
True.
that is important.
Yes.
And then some sites like Rakigadi, Dholavira is now inscribed in the World Heritage List. But still, we need to develop the sites from tourism point of view. How many people
Correct.
visit Dholavira in spite of the fact
Mm-hmm.
that this is a World Heritage site? Very few people, go to Dholavira because we need to create basic facilities there.
Right.
We need to
That's true.
give a lot of
Yes.
thought to this.
Right.
People would like to stay there for maybe a couple of days. There should be good,
Mm.
maybe hotels, restaurants. Then the
Yeah. You
sites
need the
information,
infrastructure.
yeah, the
Correct.
information.
Mm.
We don't provide information. There are large number of structures.
Mm.
People will go there and they will not understand. But if we can develop proper interpretation center at the sites,
Yes.
that will help. Yes. Then people will
Agree.
go there. They will know that yes, so we go there and we get the information.
Right.
So that
So
is
I
that
think
is how
our education system has also played a large role in this because children have grown up not knowing much about our past at all. That is one
yes.
part of it, and that automatically does not generate any kind of inquisitiveness. The system of inquiry into the past, because okay, what are we gaining from it, or what's the point in learning about the past? So
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
think also
See,
needs to change.
that will take some time
Hmm.
because for last maybe 70, 75 years, I think
Right.
when one Britishers did to India was to change the education system because
Hmm.
they knew that our traditional education system is very strong, very robust, and
Correct.
they realized that if the system is allowed to be function,
Hmm.
then perhaps it will be difficult for them to rule here.
Correct.
So intentionally they kept our system aside and introduced the European system.
Right.
Rather, they imposed that on us.
Yes.
And for 75 years, we have been taught about that only. So naturally, but now, as I say, that the time has come, we have to play
Mm.
important role,
Right.
and we have to make sure that that our traditional knowledge system becomes an important and integral part of the education system in the country now.
Absolutely
And
correct.
then
Yes.
once this is introduced, maybe next 10, 5, 10 years, you will see the difference
Yes.
because education plays
Very
such an
true.
important role.
Right.
So either it can destroy the country, or it will flourish the country.
Absolutely right. You're
So they
absolutely
know they
correct.
have to play important role.
Right.
So these are some of the important, maybe points that, I wanted to discuss.
Mm.
And for the maybe young generation, perhaps intentionally, I wanted to discuss this issue so that they understand what they have to do in future and what is
Yes.
the way forward as far as this particular subject is concerned. Because
Right.
people think that that this subject is of no use to the common people. Why should we study this subject? It should be closed
Exactly.
down. But
Yes.
I must tell the students that archaeology or history or those who study the ancient cultures, I think that subject is so important. Even if I don't know mathematics or chemistry, it will not make much difference to me. But if I don't know the roots of my culture or my
Absolutely.
I think that will make difference. So therefore, this subject is important,
Huge difference.
and this should be compulsory subject in all the standards that we teach. Then
Very
only
true.
perhaps the
Very
people will
true.
understand.
Absolutely right, sir.
Okay,
Thank
so
you so
Rajat,
much, sir. It's been
this is
an
what I wanted
absolute
to.
pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on our channel. And of course, talking to you, for me personally, it's an absolute honor, also pleasure too. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much. We look
thank you very
forward
much.
to having you. We look forward to having you on
Yeah,
Indian
sure,
history
sure.
and
We'll
archaeology
do
again.
that. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much,
Okay.
sir.
All the best. All the best.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And again, another wonderful, amazing interview session. For me, this has been an absolutely incredible opportunity to interact with my guide. And I just don't have any words to say more really about this. So if you have enjoyed this session, if you've had anything to take away from this, any new learning, then please do let us know in the comments section, on the like button, and on the subscribe button as well. Don't forget to hit the bell icon too to receive notifications for all our videos. And do share it with anyone you think would enjoy this kind of content as well. I'll see you soon again with much more. Thank you and namaskar.